back to Noxcast, your Equinox News Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Hope. I'm the managing executive editor of the Equinox.
And I'm Chloe Erno, the news editor. Today we're joined by Hayley, our
Hello.
arts and entertainment editor.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on. So, Hayley, you've been on Noxcast once before, but for all the new folks that are joining us and listening for the first time, you want to talk a little bit about your position, what you do, A&E, stuff like that?
Yeah, so for A&E, I find stories for the week. I assign them to writers, and then I help edit those stories at the end of the week. And then I do layout for the paper, which pretty much means I design everything on the page with pictures and the stories.
Yeah, can you talk about a little bit about your interest in A&E?
Yeah, so I am a film student and a creative writing and journalism minor, so I obviously like a lot of different things in the arts, even though journalism is obviously different from creative writing and film. But I was interested just because last year when the position was open, I was like, oh, arts and entertainment, that's like music and stuff, and I was excited, so.
Sweet. And what would you say to potential first years, maybe people who are interested in joining the Equinox? Why should they join?
We're really cool, and arts and entertainment's actually really fun to write for because you just go to concerts or you talk to students and staff members if we do features, and it's just, well, I'm biased, but I think it's a really fun section to write for.
Yeah, I mean, I have to co-sign on that too. The stuff that I've written for A&E has been really fun, and I think just like overall, like I used to be like news editor, and like I think news and like what we do there is really important. But I always think like I was always a little bit jealous of A&E sometimes, just because there's like concerts and like band stuff and like student bands. It's like awesome. So I encourage you to, if you're interested, reach out to Hayley at kcequinox.com. That's HAYLEY at kcequinox.com. And you could be a writer too. Anyways, with that being said, let's get right into our news recap, our very spooky news recap, because this is coming out on Halloween. So our top story in news was about new interim president of Keene State, Don Burks, also president of Plymouth State. And Chloe got the chance to sit down with Burks in addition to former President Melinda Treadwell to sort of talk about their relationship together in the past years and to sort of talk about Burks's potential plans, what he sort of sees as the future of Keene State and all that stuff. Can you want to talk about a little bit about that reporting?
Yeah, and I know I talked about this a little bit last week during our last podcast, but I think it was a very productive meeting. I was originally going to meet with him that Friday, so I was a bit surprised when I saw him on Wednesday. But I feel like because of that, it was a very natural conversation, and I think it was a very personal conversation. And it was a nice chance to just be able to sit down and get to know him better. And I think he conveyed himself very well in the quotes in the article. Just what his goal is, who he is, his experience with other universities, and I think it's just a good chance to just know the actual man behind everything.
Yeah, I think that for such a short notice on Treadwell's leave, I think that the fact that we have an already experienced president coming in for a little bit, I think that's definitely gonna help. But he seems cool, and yeah, see how he does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you got the chance to sort of talk with both of them and, a final meeting with President Treadwell. It's very weird for us. I don't know. Again, like nobody expected her to leave when she did. And so we're sort of at the point where it's like now it's official. She has taken on the role at SUNY Geneseo. So we wish her the best in that. But, I think we have to give any new leader a chance, and I think that goes for Burks as well. And, it'll just have to be seen what sort of comes out of his interim presidency, I guess. So we'll keep you posted on all that, of course, in future reporting. As for region and state, the top story was a piece in NHPR about New Hampshire officials looking for feedback on a new state climate action plan. So this is under like EPA guidance, states are they're tasked with coming up with like a plan on how they want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because that's the leading contributor towards climate change. And so part of that is New Hampshire as a state is looking at what they can do. Some of that includes more bike lanes, more electric vehicle chargers, some like small scale public transit, which I think are all good things. But some of the critiques of this are also that there's no real like enforcement mechanism. Like it's not at least as of now, it's not planned to be put into law that you have to meet these certain goals at this time or that these measures have to be taken. So that's some of the criticism, but I do think it's nice to at least see that the state is looking at ways to prevent further decline when it comes to environmental factors and the going towards reducing some of the factors that lead to climate change. I think that's positive news. If I don't know what you wanted to say about
I
this one.
definitely agree. I think it's a very good start. I think we can build off of this in the future and improve it in ways, but at a time when, especially New Hampshire, isn't the most liberal with it and actually helping against these kind of things, I think it's nice to see that in the works. And on a national scale, we've seen efforts to repeal these kind of climate change efforts, and I think that just it's nice. It's nice to see people actually standing up for our climate, trying to reduce greenhouse gases, and making a change for the better here.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a good first step in the direction of being more eco-friendly. I guess that's a word for it. But I feel like climate change has been such a big topic. Like we've been learning about climate change since like at least for me since like 3rd grade. So to see official steps towards the right direction, not just like, hey, you should do this and that. It's more of a statewide thing. I think that's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I could sort of like understand why like some people might be like fearful because it is like a pretty like these are like some pretty significant changes we're like still talking about. Obviously, nothing is like concretely like this is going to happen by this time. But it's sort of like moving away from the more traditional gas powered vehicles that are so prominent across the US. All of our infrastructure for the most part is very car centric and we've had gas cars for however long, but it's just something, like almost like half of the emissions that come from like New Hampshire, at least, are from cars. And so it's something to look at to at least reduce that number in the long term. But I thought it was a good little piece from NHPR about sort of some of the environmental work being done in the state. So I encourage you to check it out. As for our top story in student life, it was actually the clap out event that was held for President Treadwell. We posted that on social media a few days after it happened and on her last day as president. But because we've talked plenty about President Treadwell, I thought it would be nice to talk about Ryan Pacheco's article here, which is about Halloween at Keene. There's some exciting little tidbits in here, such as the fact that Keene Cinema 6 is doing screenings of the musical urban fantasy movie, K-pop Demon Hunters, where attendees who wear a costume get a free small popcorn. So there's various screenings throughout Halloween weekend over at Keene Cinemas, and also The Perch, which Ryan also did an article on somewhat recently, is going to be holding a Halloween party on Saturday, November 1st. In addition to that, locally on campus here, we do have Pumpkin Palooza coming up on Friday, Halloween, the day that this will come out. But really exciting stuff all around. I'm personally a huge fan of Halloween. I love just everything surrounding it, dressing up, candy, you name it, like all the things about it. I just am such a huge fan. It's one of my favorite holidays. And I'm glad that there's lots of stuff going on and we can kind of get into like the holiday spirit with it here at Keene.
Yeah, and I love Halloween as well. I think it's such a fun and great holiday. And I think at least compared to my freshman year, there's a lot more events on campus for students to participate in, at least from what I saw last year. And I think that's really awesome that they're just embracing the holiday. We're going to have horse riding, like that's going to be so fun in the carriages. And I think even the escape rooms are really going to be great for students. But I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, Halloween is my third favorite holiday because Christmas and Thanksgiving, you can't beat those. But I have been so excited to dress up, and now I can go not only on campus to be super cool, but I can go around town, and I can go get free popcorn, and I'm definitely planning on that because I haven't seen the movie yet. So, because yeah, I'm super excited. But I love the fact that we have so much going on, not just on campus, but also in town. So.
Yeah, I guess, while we're talking about it, I'm going as JK of Jamiroquai fame for Halloween. If you don't know, look up Virtual Insanity. It's got like the furry like top hat and then blue fleece, black pants, and then Adidas shoes. It's a pretty like simple, straightforward costume, but I think I pulled off kind of well. Chloe, did you want to talk about your costume?
Oh my gosh. My costume is mostly thrifted. And because I'm a broke college student, so I didn't want to go out and actually buy a sword that can glow. So I bought a plastic sword from Spirit Halloween and coated it in glitter in my sweet bathroom, which was so fun to clean up. But I'm going as Jace from Shadowhunters.
Awesome. Yeah. I did also just want to say, to all of our viewers, stay safe during this weekend. Obviously, there's plenty of like parties and stuff going on, but just, follow all the necessary precautions, go out with friends, make sure you're with people who are like safe and sober and all that so that you can get home safe and all that. We just want to look out for all the students as, we come up on a really fun holiday. But yeah, as for editorial, we talked about some of the staff and faculty reductions that are going to be planned as a result of state budget cuts. And I know a lot of stuff lately has been about these cuts, but this is sort of one of the more like concrete things that have come out about that, which is 17 staff positions being up for elimination. I believe 15 of those are like positions that are currently held. 2 of them were positions that are just not going to be filled, that are already vacant. As for faculty positions, there's 12 of those up for potential elimination, and that's going to be done through like separation incentive packages. There's still like we don't know every single little fact about it. We don't know like the breakdown of like what departments these staff are going to be coming from. But either way, we sort of talked in our editorial discussion about how, of course, it's unfortunate and sad that this is happening, and also somewhat of an expected result of these cuts. Again, it's the importance of civic engagement and making sure you're paying attention to what's happening on the state level, even if you're like an out-of-state student, because this is like an example of a very tangible thing that has happened as a result of what the state has done, which is deliver a multi-million-dollar cut to the university system. That's going to make it so now these people, 15 staff members are like not going to have a job at the college anymore. That's obviously horrible news. Nobody likes that fact. I think we also touched on, how it sucks to have to put the administrators at Keene State into a position where they have to pick whose job is not as important as this other person, whose job can we afford to lose? And also it kind of is hard to imagine from the point of view of, a staff member now who might not know, will I have a job in like 2 months? And also for those that will be affected, these notifications will come out on November 18th, but those who will be affected, it's, sort of just like thinking about how they might feel like, oh, the college thinks that like what I did wasn't necessary enough or wasn't needed enough in order to keep, the college going and orderly and supporting students. Because, the line that's sort of been ongoing regarding this is that these aren't really necessarily student-facing positions, but, that remains to be seen. We don't know, again, what positions exactly, but either way, it's unfortunate news.
And I just can't imagine being in the position of these members on our campus who just are thinking about whether or not they'll have a job in a couple of weeks now. And I can't imagine how scary that must be with that deadline coming up as fast as it is, and the scramble to find something else to do just in case you do get cut. And it's just hard to think they need to make these decisions about who they deem to be significant enough to keep and who isn't. And I can't imagine being in that position either, of having to make that decision, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, because when you think of positions, while you also think of people, it kind of just looks like numbers on a page, and you're like, what can we cut? And then you kind of don't think about the people that are getting cut, like how they're going to be affected, how their family's going to be affected, how they're going to have to look for another job. Um, but it also kind of sucks that uh, it kind of sucks that we that they announced like they have to cut people, but we're not gonna know for a couple more weeks. So it just leaves a lot of faculty members wondering like, did I do good enough to stay here, or am I just gonna get cut in a few weeks?
Yeah, it's like, something that I also touched on during the session is that, like, it feels like all around campus and just like the college as a whole always has to be in a fight to like prove its value to the state. And then now it's like people who are staff here have to prove their value to the college. And it's like everyone has to like beg and like plead for like somewhat of like the bare minimum of like, here's the amount of funding that we need to just like keep on going as we've been going, and then that's sort of being like ignored. It's like it's just disheartening to see a lot of legislators who I feel don't really understand the importance of higher education, and that's something that we also talk about is just it's been a lot of editorials about the the impacts of what the state did over the summer with the budget, the anti DEI measures that are still being fought, and just all the stuff relating to that. It's just been disheartening to hear, but that's why we felt it was important to sort of talk a little bit about these cuts, and we will keep on reporting once we know more about those eliminations. But on a brighter note, the top story in A&E was some event coverage of the Rocky Horror Picture Show screening that the KC Film Society put on. This was an article done by our senior photographer, Skylar, who also did the photos for the event. And there was a lot of just I was at the event as like just an attendee, to be honest, not in my journalistic capacity, but I thought it was really fun. It's sort of if you're not familiar with Rocky Horror, it's a cult classic movie, but the screenings of it are really different than like any other screening that you'd see for like a movie. There's like call outs, like the audience is supposed to say certain things during certain times. There's like objects that you like throw, not like necessarily at the screen, but just like throw in like the general direction of the screen. There's they also at this screening they held a costume contest beforehand, so it's very like interactive and sort of just really like fun experience for those who aren't familiar. But yeah, it was a good time, and I thought this coverage was sort of really captured that aspect of the event.
Yeah, and this was my second time going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show at Keene. And I will say that going on campus, not the Colonial, was nice, mostly because it was free. But it was a really fun event. And I think the costume contest beforehand was also really great. People really came out with these amazing outfits, some of which were from the movie itself. And it was just a very lively crowd, and it was really fun to attend.
Yeah, I really tried to make it, but I couldn't, and I was devastated. But pretty much, like, I wish I could have gone because I was gonna go last year. Something came up. Same thing happened this year. But the costume contest, the prizes were crazy. Like, the I remember all this for some reason. The 50th anniversary Blu-ray was third. Second place was $50 to Bull Moose and a lifetime pass to the Putnam Theater. And then first place was 50th anniversary Blu-ray plus a 50th anniversary vinyl for the film Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I thought that was really cool to just start off the event on a good note, and then to immediately go into Rocky Horror Picture Show, which obviously is always a good time, but I'm gonna try and make it next year.
Yeah, I mean, also what was different about this year's screening was there was some collaboration with WKNH, the on-campus radio station, and then KC Pride, as well as Keene State Media Productions. They all had representatives from each organization act as like judges to the costume contest, and WKNH provided the prizes for the contest winners. So that was really cool too, to see some more like collaboration between like orgs on campus and some like different takes on the event, so it's not always the same thing. But either way, it was a fun time, and sort of just, one of many Halloween lead up to Halloween events that, we always do on campus here. So yeah. As for our top story in sports here, it was a mid-season check-in with our esports team, who are now in their second year of existence. So this was an article done by our staffer Frank, who did really a great job, talked to a few athletes, talked to the head coach of the esports team about just sort of the mechanics of that. It's so much different than any other sport in athletics that it's like hard to, wrap your head around some of like the differences between this and like some, like soccer coverage or anything, because they talk about, for instance, like forfeits are a lot more common, and that's sort of like how that plays into like records and like scores and stuff. But it sounds like overall the team is doing pretty well. In particular, the team for the game Valorant is, I believe, undefeated, 5-0, at least as of the article's publication. So that's exciting. But it's, one of the things that I think one of the more exciting bits of news that has come out of Keene State in the past few years, and something that's like truly like very like new and like innovative. Not too many colleges have like bought into like esports and stuff yet. So it's nice to see that they're still flourishing. They still have like numbers that they need to like field teams and stuff like that. Now that we're in the second year.
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but I think it's so great to see positive things coming out of our sports section consistently these last few weeks. And I think it's just nice to see something new on campus that's thriving with all the cuts that we're having, with loss of programs and staff. I think it's just really positive to see something coming into its own and that's managed to thrive in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's cool to see that esports is like really still treated like a more athletic sport. But it's like, I gotta give props to the esports team because undefeated in Valorant is really cool. But yeah, it's good to see that esports is still doing good, that even though it's a new program, there's still a lot of interest in it. And I can't wait to see how they do.
Yeah, I mean, also, I forgot if I mentioned this, but our staffer Alex also took some really good photos of this, just team photos, people like mid-game and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to sort of get those. I feel like we've gotten a lot of pictures of like the facility and stuff, but not as many like in-game photos, which again, like the mechanics of doing that are so much different than like if you were to take like photos of soccer. But I feel like he was still able to capture that like action, at least as much action as there is with that. So I thought it was really nice to see some solid visuals with that as well. But with that, that concludes our recap. So as always, I would like to extend a special thank you to the composer of the music for Noxcast, our very own Equinox alum, Zach Keenan, as well as the creator of the graphic for Noxcast, our very own art director, Ryan Fisher, and the editor of Noxcast, our multimedia director, Noelle Hisgen.